Welcome to the After Dark podcast with Anthony James and Konrad. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode.
Hello, and welcome to the After Dark podcast. I'm Anthony James, and that's Konrad.
Hello.
That's him. Well, Konrad, how's your week been this week?
Yeah, it's not been too bad, thank you. I'm trying to think if I've actually done anything of note. I haven't really, to be honest. It's been very by the numbers. How's yours been?
Yeah, mine's been pretty good. I mean, the numbers are rising.
Yeah.
The temperature's rising, you know.
I'm trying to remember the rest of that song, and I can't remember a single word from it. Something, burn, baby, burn, disco inferno.
Something's getting low. I don't know what, though. But
oh, no, wait, that's It's Raining Men. I was
yeah, I'm
Disco
doing this.
Inferno.
It's Raining Men, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's still, about temperature in some way.
Yeah. But basically, so sort of numbers are rising, and the school I work in, everyone's getting tense, so we'll see what happens. But apart from that, I'm very happy in my life. Baby's going well, and we got a good episode of Dark to talk about today.
Yeah, there's stuff to discuss. That's all I'll say for now.
Yeah, and I just want to say, before we start, I want to thank two people who've sent in a donation of support to us. As we said last week, if you want to do it, there's a link in the description to a tip jar. We will use any money we get through that tip jar to put back into the podcast, whether that be a webcam for Konrad so you can see his lovely mug. Although someone actually even said in the comments last week that they want to see a Vegeta tattoo.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, we'll have to see if that can be arranged. It'll be quite difficult to make out on a webcam, but maybe I'll do like a.
Well, we're thinking a really good webcam that it doesn't really look like a webcam. You know, we're thinking like a camera that you can mount to your computer, basically.
Okay. Yeah. So you can see like it's high definition enough that you can see the pores on my skin, basically.
Yeah. We need to see each pixel of color in that tattoo.
Okay. Nice. I'll moisturize it beforehand as well then.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. So and it was through those donations that we were able to get these lovely microphones that you can hear us talking on now.
Yeah, I was going to say, if listeners notice a deeper, a richer sound coming from Anthony, that is because he now has the new microphone as well.
Yes, we both have it. But now that we both have it, it might actually lessen the quality overall, because last week it was like everyone was noticing how good yours was, and now this week we're just like we're both the same, so it might actually...
We've normalized it, yeah, exactly. Anyway, so there's two people who have donated to us this week, so thank you very much, Donnie Starts. Thank you very much. Legend.
Legend killer, you might say. And Azan. Thank you very much, Azan. Okay, guys. We are going to get into this great episode. And I think Konrad has told me he's got a few theories coming out of this one, would you believe?
Couple of little ones cooking away.
Cooking away, yeah. All right, let's get straight in. Oh, no, sorry. I can't say straight into it. I haven't learned my lesson. Let's get into it.
Yep, let's do it.
Oh, let's break it down!
All right, so the episode opens with Jonas tinkering away at the big cesium thing. It's same sort of thing. It's in the power plant, and he's in the future. I think you said that the description of the video of the episode confirmed that this is 2050. What was it? 2053.
2052. I think
2052. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on, no, it would be 2053, wouldn't it?
Well. I went back and forth on that. The episode description, yeah, it definitely said 2052 in the episode description, but the maths does not check out on that as far as I'm concerned. So,
right, we're going to get Baron on the phone. Get
Netflix on the phone now. Call Mr. Netflix, write into him and say, "You've screwed up, my friend."
Honestly, that's the biggest mistake in Dark.
I actually, not to jump the gun, I've found a mistake in Dark, listeners.
Yeah, okay. So
more on that later.
So we had one in season one.
Oh, this is a biggie.
And we've got a big mistake in season 2.
A biggie. You bloody wait. I'm going to take them to the cleaners on this one.
Those how it's like someone's shoelace is tied and then it's not.
Those idiots. No, you'll see when we get to it. I will say about this opening, I really appreciate that they haven't shown Jonas becoming competent with all the equipment that he's messing around with here, and have just skipped forward to when he knows how to do all this stuff, because they totally could have done a filler episode on him learning how all these machines work, and it would have probably been boring. So it's quite nice to just be like, yeah, Jonas has figured it out. I don't know. Yeah,
and he's following the plans which we assume are left by Claudia, because she's the one talking. So because she's going on the tapes.
It only dawned on me in this episode that the Claudia on the tapes is 80s Claudia as well, actually, rather than old Claudia. Not that that's I mean, it will probably be quite relevant, but it just struck me in this episode, so I don't know why I didn't make that connection in the last one.
Yeah. Well, I didn't make the connection because I was listening to the dub, and the old Claudia sounds about 25 years old, so...
Nice.
Yeah, so that was why I didn't make the connection. But, so he's working away at this. What did you think about the design of this sort of oozing ball of whatever when it actually sort of formed into a sphere?
Yeah, the Portal production design is amazing. I think when it's a portal and when he interacts with it later, it's very sort of believable as a portal, but it's also I love the way it kind of behaves and sounds when it's not stable. Like it's very kind of ominous and threatening in a really kind of believable way. The production design on that's fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. And I also, in terms of the actual design of it, in terms of the visual effects, the way they've done it, like I can imagine, like Dark doesn't have the biggest budget for visual effects, but they've made it actually look so good by having it be very dark. Do you know what I mean? And they've it's all like in terms of what I've watched on YouTube in terms of visual effects artists react to, right? they always talk about like the idea of making sure the lighting of your 3D element is the same as the set, and it just there's nothing that makes it like, I'm sure if you studied it really hard you say it doesn't look real, but it looks, for the budget of the show, so good to me. Yeah,
I mean, I was actually thinking about that and wondering whether their budget went up at all in the second season, because the only real moments of any kind of CGI that I noticed in the first season were the spinning parts of the Tannhaus time machine, which looked like they were CGI'd, and they looked pretty good. I mean, you could tell it was CGI, but they didn't look too bad. And the portal in the last episode, which looked okay, it didn't look too bad. But these feel on another level to that. This feels like they've stepped up their game in terms of the special effects that they're using, and I don't know whether it's a budgetary thing or just a pure competency or design thing, but yeah, it definitely looks great.
Yeah, exactly. And in terms of the season 1 visual effects, they also visual effects the little Mickle magic trick as well.
Yeah,
so that high quality.
Yeah, that's the kind of level they were working with.
Okay, so after the credits, we get the what is now the new title card sort of thing. It's the 22nd of June, 1987, and I actually didn't actually write down how many, but I'm pretty sure it's 5 days. Is that right?
Yeah, it's 5. So if we keep up the pace that this series is cutting at the moment, so with one episode per day, by my calculations, episode 7 will feature the apocalypse, and episode 8 will be after it, which I cannot wait for.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So that's a good thinking. So you're actually counting down the episodes. Makes sense to me. So at this point, we always have a look at the German name of the episode and try and pronounce it. Except, obviously, they've made a decision to not show it on the screen. So we've had to go and change our game a little bit. So basically, we say the English name of the episode. Konrad tries to translate it with his...
This is going to be bad.
With his GCSE German.
Yeah.
And then I translate it on Google and then try and pronounce it. So the episode's called Dark Matter in English. What do you think it is in German?
So I'm pretty sure dark in German is dunkel or dunkel. So it'll be dunkel something. I have no idea. So I'm just going to say dunkel matter, and maybe I hope it's one of those German words that English borrowed.
So according to Google Translate, you're actually not far off.
Yeah.
So it's dunkel.
Nice.
And then I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this correctly, but it's Materie.
Oh, okay.
Materie. I think it's like... It's like it sort of seems like it's around the same idea as material. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Well, that seems like I was barking up the right tree then. Like English does have a habit of stealing words from German, or and that looks like it's one of them.
Yeah. Very impressed. Very impressed. Okay. So then the first sort of scene of the episode after the pre-credit scene is we get Mikkel waking up in bed. Very akin to Jonas did all the times in the first episode as well as in the previous season.
Yeah, very cool symmetry.
Yeah, very cool symmetry. He's also waking up in the same bed.
Yeah, but he does have a cool 80s toy robot, which Jonas doesn't have. So that's probably why
it might be in the attic or something.
Maybe it got packed away. But I think that tells us a lot about why Jonas ended up as messed up as he did.
Yeah, no toy robot to play with.
Yeah.
But on the wall, they've got a lovely Goonies poster. And of course,
Yeah.
Boris Becker lifting the Wimbledon trophy.
Yeah, I loved the sort of the set design for this, because it felt quite believable for a young boy in the late 80s.
Yeah, and but the thing is, this is 87. I'm really wondering, Boris Becker, did he win Wimbledon in 87?
I actually, so not to give the game away, but the flaw I have found is very much down this alleyway. I didn't check the Boris Becker and the Goonies stuff, although I have a feeling Goonies might have been 88. I'm not going to check it now, but
I think Boris Becker won 3 Wimbledons in a row or something. So I'm thinking to myself, if that picture is from the 87 Wimbledon, well, this is taking place on June something?
Yeah,
June 22nd. Wimbledon wouldn't have been finished yet.
No. This episode.
You're ruining Doc. Episode 2, season 2. No, but the thing is, he won it a few times, so that might be a poster from previously. But my point was going to be, if he just won it, because actually, no, he wouldn't even have won it yet. But even if he just won it, they wouldn't be able to get the posters out that quickly to Germany. No way.
I mean, they might have had him on standby, and they just photoshopped his face, or the 87 equivalent of Photoshop, photoshopped his face onto the poster and just used a stand-in body in the Wimbledon trophy.
Yeah, the 80s equivalent of Photoshop, like in Seinfeld, whenever they just draw a cartoon person into the photo.
Yeah. I have just checked, actually, and Goonies came out in 85, so I rescind that criticism. But you better believe I'm coming for this episode in one scene's time still.
Okay. Awesome.
Just as a complete aside as well, this scene really made me want some rye bread.
Oh, really?
Oh,
I think I know what you're coming for. I think I know. Okay, so before we get there though, he had some comics on the floor.
Yep.
Now I noticed when I watched this the similarities in the comics on the floor with Back to the Future. To me, you know how George has the comics, and then I don't know, it's not called Captain Future, but George McFly has comics with a sort of spaceman or whatever on them.
Yeah, it's definitely like he's reading Silver Age comic books that look like they're from the 50s or 60s, rather than, in the 80s. I can't speak for young German children in the 80s, but I'm pretty sure they had Spider-Man, so that's what I would expect him to be reading. And I think it's a very deliberate decision for him to be reading this really kind of kitschy 50s and 60s stuff instead.
Yeah, exactly. And then he goes down to Enos. He's not very happy because it's actually his mom Katarina's birthday today.
Yeah.
And she says to him, "Past is the past, now is now."
Yeah, feels like there might be some kind of double meaning in that.
It does. And it also seems like potentially this storyline could actually be the way Enos is approaching it here already in this first episode in season 2, second episode in season 2. We could actually be getting a disproving of one of your theories, which you forgot to put in the theory matrix.
Which one's that?
Because you've briefly mentioned that you thought that Enos might begin to really try hard to get Mikkel back to his original timeline.
Well, I don't think I can't remember exactly. I do remember the one you're talking about, but I feel like it was more, I'm interested to see how she balances that kind of pull to do what he wants with
it was more about you wondering about the future rather than predicting. I get that, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm still interested to see, to be honest. I think, to be honest, if I was Mikkel, the main reason I'd be wanting to leave the 80s is because of the way she's dressing him, because holy crap, the shorts he's wearing in this scene.
Yeah, there's no kid who comes from 2019 and is just okay with putting them on.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen people dressed like that in 2019, but they have to be 10 years older and, pretty deep into sort of the hipster subculture to pull that off. And Mikkel, God bless him, I don't think they let magicians even into the hipster club, so he's out of luck.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll move on then, and we get the scene which I'm assuming you're going to say is there's a mistake, and it's in Claudia's house. Regina's getting ready to go to school. Egon's going to take her. That's what I've got from the scene. He's got his lovely fishing vest on, and Claudia doesn't really have any time for either of them.
Yeah, like Egon in this episode and in this scene specifically, he kind of breaks my heart in this episode because he really sort of the performance really captures this idea of like this old man who's feeling a bit useless now that he's retired, and Claudia is kind of too busy to see that her dad is desperate for a purpose. So you know when he offers to take Regina, or no, he is taking Regina to school, I think, because Claudia can't do it, and he's very keen to keep doing it, and Claudia doesn't even see that. Who is like, as we find out later in the episode, he's possibly dying as well, which is just an interesting reflection of Regina's situation in 2020. But yeah, Egon is like really, really like far and away, I think the best character in this episode for me.
Yeah, Egon is fantastic. He's a real tragic character in this episode, especially. So what's the mistake? What's going to make us all stop this video right now and never watch Dark again?
All right, pens at the ready, everyone, because we need to let them know. We need to mass a letter campaign to Netflix to say they've screwed up. The date of this episode, June 22nd, 1987. The release date of Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Astley, 27th of July, 1987. Shut it down!
Yeah, shut it down. Was that the release date that they put it on for sale? Was it on the radio before it was for sale?
No, that's when the single was released. So, like, it wouldn't have even been on the radio before then.
Not even a little insider German DJ.
Yeah, maybe someone leaked it ahead of time. And then got it on the market in Germany to see how it was doing, and then it hit the wider international market shortly after. Yeah,
I'm just waiting for the comment. Actually, in the 80s, there was a German DJ who knew Rick Astley very well. But yeah, okay, so that's a mistake. That's my favorite type of mistake, because it really it means nothing, but it's just a little thing that gets you.
It's just like the problem is that this show is so good at getting these kind of things right that the only way to sort of criticize it for this is to be an absolute pedant and just find things that don't matter at all and then be like, you idiots.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing here.
Yeah, I'm not even going to watch their next show, 1899.
No, I refuse.
No.
I'm done with Dark, to be honest.
Yep, exactly. Okay, so next scene. I think we're done with that scene. Oh yeah, there was a little bit in that moment in that scene whenever Egon recognized Gretchen, and then Claudia sort of dismissed it straight away.
Yeah, there's an interesting kind of back and forth with Claudia's character in this, where she's desperate for someone to kind of disprove what she kind of knows deep down, that the dog is Gretchen, because the truth is so sort of profoundly upsetting to her. And you can kind of see it in how she outright rejects Egon saying, "Oh, this looks like Gretchen," which is, a fairly innocent assertion by him. And then obviously it comes back later in the episode where something gets a little bit more emphatic.
Oh yes, indeed. Okay, little morsel. Right. Okay. So the next scene is just the scene in the police station. So we have Clausen and Charlotte. Charlotte's having a look at the picture of Adam and Noah again. We have also Clausen comes in and starts asking about Ulrich and what he had figured out or whatever. He also has an issue with the fact that Alexander took his wife's name.
Yeah, he needs to get with the times, I think. Like men can take their partner's names. It's 2020, Clausen. Jesus.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think I get the.
Although it wasn't 2020 when he did it. Let's just say that.
That is a fair point. Actually, it was the 80s, so it would have been a lot different then. But I get the continued impression here that Clausen is actually interviewing Charlotte while he's interviewing all these other well, not witnesses, but interviewing people in Vinden who might have some insight into the case.
Definitely feels that way.
Yeah, I was hoping one of our listeners might be able to give some insight into this, but I love that when Charlotte goes to Google Sigmundus Creatus Est, she uses a search engine called Luma, which I've never heard of, and I don't know whether it's a fake search engine or something specific to Europe or maybe Germany, but that made me laugh.
I always wonder about that in films and TV when they have fake search engines, and I thought to myself, like, is it really worth like paying a programmer just for a day to create a fake little program?
Like a fake UI.
Yeah, is it really worth it? Or maybe they just literally make a video that they play on the screen. That'd be quicker, I suppose.
I don't know what the rules are, to be honest. Like I assume Google don't care, but maybe there's, because they're such big companies, there's lots of legal red tape that you have to get through to get it allowed.
Yeah, and there might also be something like in the future, if you want to go to the search engines and say who wants to pay me the most money, if you've already been using Google, you can't really do that, can you?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So okay. So also, whenever they finish talking, as you say, he sort of seems to be interrogating Charlotte the whole time here, and he also, as they were leaving the office, he lingered looking at her file and maybe even at the photograph underneath, and he is sort of watching her.
Yeah, he saw the photo, which, just as a little aside, I noticed also contains, or looks very much like it contains, the man who was killed at the beginning of episode 1, who I believe to be Older Bartos, as well. So, yeah, he's...
Which sort of which fits, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we know
he would be a member of the group. Like,
yeah, but yeah, it's interesting that I'm interested to see where Clausen's story goes, because he's figuring it out.
Yeah, he's figuring something out. That's for sure. Okay, cool. So the next scene, we get Magnus and Franziska. Magnus finally comes and confronts Franziska after like what seems like a whole season of like sort of sneaking around, seeing what she's doing.
I've just realised I've written. I'll let you finish your description of this scene. I've written something down in my notes which belies one of my theories. Sorry, I'll come back to this in a second, but it just made me laugh.
Okay. So I wasn't going to say much here, just that Magnus, as soon as she starts saying like, "No, you idiot," he's like, "Oh God, what have I done?"
So, I mean, to talk about the general sort of action in this scene, to be fair to Magnus, like, Franziska was keeping a secret from him and sneaking off into the woods to keep it. So I mean, I think I see both sides of this. Like, yes,
is it a secret? Yeah, I understand saying it's a secret. I do understand that, but is it a secret just not to tell everyone about all parts of your life all the time?
Yeah, that's a fair point. But I think she's reasonably angry because he thinks so little of her. But it's if something requires you to sort of sneak off into the woods and leave like drugs in a little tin and then collect money, I feel like it's suspicious enough that I can't blame Magnus for being a bit suspicious himself. But yeah, I wrote down in this scene, like, so when Magnus runs in and starts quoting Benny's services and the prices, I wrote down, "Jesus, Magnus, use euphemisms or talk where Ellie can't hear you, man." Which is obviously it doesn't work because Ellie might have an issue with that, but at the same time I have still got my theory matrix that she's not actually deaf mute, so
yeah. Well, actually, then that actually fits your theory. You're believing that theory so much.
Yeah, exactly. I've internalized it to the point where I believe she hears every conversation that goes on around her.
Yeah, exactly. Also, just as a sort of a little aside on this, I love the way that when Franziska, like the passion that Franziska is putting into this, I just love when she, like, I don't know why, it always sticks to me the way she's speaking German and then she says Arsch. Yeah,
like the words like Arsch, and I can't remember what the word for tits is, but it sounds similar as well to the English, and they both come through and sort of cut through the dialogue very clearly. It's very funny.
Yeah, it is good. Just before we leave this scene, I will say there's one or two comments left on last week's video for this of people properly hating on this scene. There's a question about it in the question and answers video, which will be coming out this Saturday. So if you want to hear my opinion on that, I think it's a question to me, Konrad. Sorry, I'm sure you'll give your input. But there's a question about it where someone is basically accusing this scene of being like a soap opera and what's it doing in this show. But we're not going to give any opinions on it now. You'll have to tune in on Saturday to hear our opinions on that. Okay?
Yeah, remaining tight-lipped.
Tight-lipped about that. Okay. Also, before we leave the scene, one more thing. Someone actually put in a comment. This is actually hilarious. I think they got this from some other YouTuber or something, but I'm not sure. I think some people who were reacting to the show, you know how people do that live. So I think someone said in the episode, we have to say this because it's so funny. Anyway, go back to the last episode. In season 2, episode 1, whenever Magnus goes into Benny's trailer and Benny says like 35 blowjob, whatever, and then Magnus like runs out of the trailer. Yeah. Apparently, one of the guys who was reacting to it just goes, Oh, he's off to the ATM.
Oh, God.
That's great.
This is what we're missing out on by not having live reactions. Clearly, like you don't get to hear me making all kinds of dumb jokes.
Yeah,
as
someone
the show's
actually
going
did suggest that we refilm your reaction to the last episode.
on. Oh, well, maybe. Yeah, there was.
If we
Not
can
to
be
give anything
together,
away.
if we can somehow be together for it, that'd be cool. But
Yeah.
at the same time, we're not really a reaction channel. But
No.
you know, if we can, I would. So, but I don't say that as a diss to reaction channels. I say that in it wouldn't be very good because it's not like something we're used to doing. You know.
Yeah, I don't tend to react very much when I'm watching things as well. Like only when I get like big things right or things are confirmed to be right do I tend to react. And even then, it's not like a proper big reaction. It tends to be a sort of and
Yeah,
then move on.
and if you have to play to the camera, it'll actually sort of distract you from what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So the next episode is somewhat of a surprising twist I found when I started watching when I was watching this for the first time. Stranger Jonas actually shows Hannah the time machine and says that I want to show you. I think it's show her dad's secret.
Yes, yeah, and this is after this scene, or well, before this scene, I suppose. I resolved to stop reading the Netflix episode descriptions before watching the episode because that literally says that Jonas takes Hannah back in time, which
Oh, really?
I was like, oh, cool, thanks Netflix for spoiling what's going to happen.
I'm amazed you actually got this far reading them, and then they weren't giving too much away
Well,
up to this point.
I don't know what I was doing before. I wasn't reading them, and then I read the one for the last episode for some reason, and I read this one, and it was I think
It
I must have
made you
just
start seeing it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was just making a point of not being exposed to anything before, but I'm just going to go back to just ignoring them now because when this happened,
You should go and stand in the other room and then get your partner say,
Yeah.
put it on, pause it at the start, and
Yeah,
come in
it.
blindfolded.
coming in my viewing gown that has like a hood that covers my eyes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I went down a blind alley in this scene because Hannah, when Jonas comes downstairs, is looking at a photo of herself, Michael, and Jonas, and then another photo of what realistically is probably just a younger Jonas. But in my head, I was like, oh, who's this third child or second child, I guess, and went down that alleyway for a little while.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, we don't know it's Jonas.
We don't. He had very, very blonde hair. Although, I had blonde hair when I was that age too. So
He had very blonde hair and he was really into golf. And I haven't seen Jonas play golf once in this series.
Yeah, Jonas does not seem like a sporty type. That's one thing I will say about him.
No, he doesn't seem athletic.
Loves a leisurely cycle. That's about it.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So then we get the birthday girl, Katerina, smacking into her son. We don't know it's her son, obviously, but smacking into him. Out of my way, douchebag.
To be fair, Mikkel does look like a dork in this scene. Like I would shoulder barge him in the 80s as well if I was in her position.
Yeah, and they have like the cool like sort of 80s synthy music again. This is something that they've come back to like 2 or 3 times now. They've done this first day at 80s school thing, you know?
Yeah,
even though this is not his first day, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I just it's really nice that they kind of use it liberally. This is that kind of Stranger Things feeling of like, you know, they're far more conservative with how they use it, which I really appreciate because it means in moments like this where they kind of make the concerted decision to be like, yeah, we're gonna go with the theme of the time and play some cool 80s music for 30 seconds or so here, it really lands, and you don't get overwhelmed with it.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Okay, so as you notice as we go through, the scenes are getting shorter and shorter in this show, but there's blasting through story. So the next scene is the scene you were sort of alluding to earlier, and that's the one where Claudia comes to visit herself in the power plant.
Characters just cannot stop meeting themselves now.
They're actively pursuing it.
Yeah, like after Stranger Jonas's, you know, caution about meeting himself for fear that his younger self might delete them both from history, everyone's just at it now. They're like, oh, I'll be fine.
Yeah. Hasn't happened yet. So
that we know of.
Yeah, exactly. So she gives a whole sort of thing about like, it's, you know, it's my dog like it is yours, you know. She dropped the bombshell that she knew the name. Also, there was a cool bit of detail here that we actually found out how Gretchen got through the door.
Yeah, I did like that because I'd kind of made my peace with the fact that, I don't know, the dog opened the door or whatever. Like, I don't care enough to question it. But they just threw in that little bit of explanation there to say that Claudia was behind it herself.
Yeah, but it also means that Claudia didn't use the tunnel; she used her machine, probably.
Yes, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wonder what's gonna. That's something I'm keen to see more of, because Claudia just seems to time travel at will, which I don't know if it's really been explained how much cesium-137 is required for each journey, but she seems to have a ready supply of it.
Yeah, I don't personally, my own understanding is that when you fill that little vial up, it doesn't have to be filled up new every time. I don't think. I think it's it's like a little it's like a fuel system, and you have a number of jumps. That's my understanding of it. Like, I don't think you have to go looking for more every time you go through time. In that, like, if that was the case, if they were to travel to the 50s, say, which we know that we know that Noah has in some way or another, we know that. Well, I suppose Noah was going through the tunnels.
Noah's using the tunnels, but we suspect he's using
the
tunnels.
As far as this stage we're concerned, he's using the tunnels. So actually, we're not sure. We've only really seen people using the machine between the later years when the cesium-137 did exist. So actually, we don't actually know how much you need for this time travel machine. Yeah. Anyway, what do you think of the creepy guy who looks around at the woman's ass?
Oh my god, yeah. What's his name? Kowalczyk. He seems like a scumbag, to be honest. Like, he just everything. And I very much enjoyed having done an episode on Edge of Tomorrow, that Claudia basically does exactly the same thing as Tom Cruise's character in that here, and kind of calls what's happening in an office environment to prove that she's telling the truth, which was good fun. And we get another Ik Bin Do, which is becoming a recurring line in this season. Yeah,
Ik Bin Do. So I think that's it's technically the second, but I think also Noah kind of said it to himself as well, didn't he? Even though he does. But it's not really an Ik Bin Do moment, because he already knew that it was him when we heard it,
Yeah, it's less. It's kind of less profound than the other two, but it's still, there's the third character who said that to themselves. So I wonder who else is going to do this. Yeah. There was one thing I noticed about Claudia here. Don't know if this is important or relevant at all, but she's got 2 different coloured eyes. Yeah,
that is pretty cool. I don't believe that either of the actresses actually does. I think that's just something. There's little things like Enos's mole, for example. There's little things that they do to really sort of hone in that they're the same character, and they make the casting seem so much better again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess I wonder if was that definitely the case in the first season, because I didn't notice it, so it's possible. I mean, I suppose she wasn't actually in the first season that much, or 80s Claudia, that is. So it's possible I just didn't notice it. But it's a cool idea doing things like that, just to, as you say, hammer down that they're one and the same character.
Yeah, like Helga's ear scar too. Yeah. But definitely, I think I actually would have to go back and see, but they're definitely highlighting it here, aren't they? They're definitely making sure you see that she has 2 different color eyes here.
Yeah.
It's very striking. Okay, so then we get another sort of scene in the tragic case of Egon in this episode. Egon is at home. He gets a call, and we sort of find out that he's got cancer, and it's spread. I don't think we knew he had cancer before this, except for 80s Ulrich saying maybe it's cancer, but correctly predicting, we'll say. So he also looks at the book, his old police journal, which I thought was very interesting, actually. I think
he still has this all.
This might be a mistake in Dark. How did Ulrich get it out of the files if he has it at home after he's retired? Oh, he's actually... Yeah, you know what I mean? Maybe he's actually still working the case.
I think what was written... I'm trying to remember what Ulrich actually saw. Did he see the book?
He had the little book, yeah.
I suppose it's possible
it cut from him writing it in it to Ulrich holding it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's possible, I guess, that Egon gives it back to the police station.
Yeah, like after he's finished working with it or whatever, yeah.
Or, potentially after he dies, because it seems like in this episode, he doesn't seem like he has long left, which, again, it really tugs at the heartstrings, the Egon stuff in this episode. Like, when he's on the phone and he says, "Oh, I have someone," presumably, to help him, support him through the treatment, if he's going to have treatment, or just through the illness, and we know
get to the hospital as well.
Yeah, exactly, and we know that that's not the case, and he's just what we've seen of Egon so far, and I suspect he's going to remain this way. He's one of the few characters who seems completely good. Like, there doesn't seem to be any malice or any evil. Okay, he's been a bit incompetent at times. Maybe he wasn't the best police officer, but at least he wasn't beating children to death or, taking bribes or, doing whatever else. And to see him kind of ending his life this way is really, really upsetting.
Yeah, and even if you look back towards his middle age years as well, like how he had his wife Doris, and there was hints in terms of what's going to happen in terms of that last season, and he like Doris isn't there anymore. Now we don't know if Doris and him stayed together and then she died. We don't really know that at this point, but definitely there's that shroud of his past, and we sort of can see what's happening as well.
Yeah, like his life, he doesn't deserve a lot of what appears to have happened to him in his life, which makes it all the sadder.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so then the next scene, Jonas needs to go and get some petrol.
Yep.
Or diesel or whatever it is. And he comes up with a fantastic plan, and he blasts Suspicious Minds by Elvis across the wasteland. And then the tank rolls up thinking, hey, this is a party I want to be a part of.
I love the use of a song which literally starts with the line, "We're caught in a trap to set a trap." It's so stupid. It's just brilliant.
Yeah, it is brilliant. Yeah, fantastic. So, so what did you think of this? It's actually, even though this song was going on, and it's a great song, it's a little bopping tune,
Yeah.
It's actually there was a lot of tension in this part of the episode. Like,
yeah, I think so. I really like this scene because, well, for a start, because we don't recognise where he is, which to me implies that he's maybe gone quite far outside of Vinden. Maybe to, I think it's implied. I assume Vinden is a real place, and I think it's kind of maybe implied that it's in the Black Forest somewhere or down near Munich. So maybe that's where he's gone to. But it gives a sense of the wider world, or certainly the wider parts of Germany, and the fact that this conflict is widespread, and you have these warring factions who are essentially just war bands, just roaming the countryside, killing or recruiting whoever they can find. And yeah, there's a really great tension to the scene, with in Jonas almost getting caught as he's siphoning the diesel or the petrol out of the APC.
Yeah, and actually we say he's not a sportsman, but he ran up to the other side of that wall really quick.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, that was like like Usain Bolt level 100-meter dash he did there. Like he travelled like 50 feet in like a second.
Yeah, he's just a fantastic man.
Yeah.
But so he's got his petrol now. He can go back and sort of fire up the machine, fire up the Barbie, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that'll be good. After that, we get a sort of a different type of scene than we've really seen before. We get it's a different mood than we've seen, and it's Regina and Alexander. And the reason why I say it's a different type of scene that we've seen before is because this actually seems like a genuine loving couple.
Yeah, I've got to start with Alexander's outfit in this scene. Like, I can't. I know it was the 80s, but my word is that jacket loud and in charge of this scene. And it's a shame because, yeah, it is a really sort of genuine, affectionate scene. And one of the things I really like about what the writing in Dark has done with these two characters is it's taken them from people who seemed in the first episode of season 1, in Regina's case, to be the sort of money-minded, open the beaches, I don't care if there's been a shark attack kind of character in Jaws. And Alexander, who's like the corporate bad guy who just wants his power plant to keep running and doesn't care about the murders, into really one of the purest couples in the whole show, I think. Like, there's no... I mean, obviously there's secrets in their relationship, but it's not secrets they're keeping from each other. As we'll find out in the next scene, it's actually secrets that Regina is still thinking about protecting, even in 2020, and that they seem to genuinely love and care for one another, which is really nice. Yeah,
exactly. And it's definitely one of the nicest relationships of the whole show, for me anyway. And I think also here there's a touching little bit of dialogue between them where Regina's sort of is saying that her mum doesn't care about her. Her mum doesn't even like sort of ever, when they're around each other, the mum acts like really cold to her. Yeah. So Claudia's a very cold mother, which obviously we've seen examples of that already as well. And Alexander says, well, it doesn't matter because I'm here for you. And it was just really touching. And I thought to myself, yeah, it's really nice because we know that even in 2020, he still is.
Yeah, and it's the writing is really smart in this scene because it interweaves that idea of, my mother doesn't do anything for me. So like this dialogue between them where they're talking about how much they care about each other with this kind of thematic idea of the sins of the father stuff where what our parents do is passed on to us. Regina obviously says my mum hasn't passed anything on to me because she's never around.
Yeah.
But the fact, she gets cancer, the fact that Egon has cancer, that there's and possibly Michael/Mikkel was ill from something as well, does suggest that maybe there is some kind of carcinogenic property with either the power plant or the cesium-137 or something like that, which is quite a literal effect of Claudia's actions being passed down to Regina. But yeah, it's kind of blended in with this conversation where the two of them are talking about it doesn't matter what's passed down to you because we love each other, which is very sweet in and of itself.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so then we get a cut from Regina in 87 into Regina in 2020. And Clausen and Charlotte are around the house and they are quizzing her. Clausen really wants to hone in on this last name.
Yeah, he cannot let it go.
He can't let it go. So then Regina reveals that she's got a box of the strangest things that he came and stayed at the hotel. And it's funny because, if I was Clausen or Charlotte, I'd be sitting thinking, what? You had all this stuff about the children who went missing and you didn't tell us this?
Yeah.
But obviously, she thinks I don't know why she would do that. She's hiding it or something.
Well, he did tell her to keep a hold of it because he said he'd be back.
Yeah, so maybe she believed him.
Yeah, maybe she was scared of him. Like, he's fairly intimidating as a character. So it's, in the cold light of day, she probably should have given it to the police. But I could see her being afraid to do so, or she's a busy woman. Maybe she just forgot. Yeah,
and also she doesn't trust Ulrich at all anyway. So as long as he was in the police, she was never going to give it to him.
Yeah, exactly. And rightfully so.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so Charlotte notices when she's looking through the box a page out of her grandfather's book, A Journey Through Time, and the actress does a really good job of immediately starting to shake and be very, very sort of nervous and apprehensive. I thought it was a great performance. Yeah, and then she is able to get away from her job as a policewoman who is interrogating a witness to go and take Elizabeth to a dance.
A swim class.
Swim class? Yeah.
Yeah, so bails on the interview in a totally believable and non-suspicious way.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I have to leave this interrogation of a witness. My daughter's got a swimming to do.
At this exact moment when some key piece of evidence has just been revealed, I have to leave for a completely separate reason.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm really interested to see what happens with Charlotte going on from this because she really starts to freak out and I can't fully put my finger on why exactly. My theories from this episode are very much to do with Charlotte. I will say that much. Okay. But I'm interested to see what comes of this on her side.
Well, yeah, even the idea, I think the idea that even that her grandfather's involved in this in some way, because obviously he would have still been alive in 86 when Mads went missing. So, maybe she's just really worried about that. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see going forward. So then we get the final reveal sort of what this machine looks like when it's working. And in my opinion, well, actually, I'll let you go first. What do you think of the design of how so basically Stranger has taken Hannah back to the 80s. We see the machine working. I like the little note they say whenever he says it's safer to go from the caves, meaning that every time we see people going in and out of the caves doesn't mean they're using the tunnel necessarily.
Yeah.
And I understood that to mean that if they do it here, they're not going to teleport inside someone. You know what I mean?
That's a good point, actually, because that was my first thought in this scene. Was I didn't fully understand why it's safer to travel from the caves than inside their own home. But then, I guess if they're traveling to the exact same spot, then if they travelled inside their house, if they used it inside the Karnwald house, they could potentially telefrag Enos or something. No, and no one wants that. Mikkel's been through enough already.
Forget about Toast Hawaii. How about Toast Havinus?
Oh man, we'll come back to Toast Hawaii later. That looks good. But yeah, so I think this is the first time. I'm just trying to think. I'm pretty sure this is the first time we've seen that portal. We saw the unstable one stabilizing briefly at the beginning of this episode,
and we also saw a sort of similar looking portal that appeared above the power plant. Whenever Helga and Jonas switched or didn't switch, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that Alexander and Regina were looking at. So I mean, we have seen it before, but I think this is the first time it's been like, yep, this is what a time travel portal from one of these machines actually looks like, which is smart because it basically, as you've just said, it lets us go back and look at where we've seen this before and start putting the pieces together. And this is going to come into my theory a bit later, but that image of the Nielsen family seems very important, and it feels like it's something beyond the vague suggestion that Mikkel's transportation to 86 is what started this. So yeah, more on that a bit later, but the fact it keeps coming back seems important.
Interesting. I will also say about the scene when in the cave, the sort of wide shot of the portal growing and then they disappear, and in the background you've got the future light sitting there, and it sort of looks like a moon and the sun and or something like that. And Hannah and Jonas are standing holding hands. That image there is the cinematography and the composition of the image. It's just a joy to look at. I love the composition of that image. And again, as also later on, whenever Claudia's traveling as well, that where they sort of come out to the wide shot and just show you everything that's happening. And I just love the compositions and the cinematography of those moments. Yeah, no, they're definitely really, really nice shots. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so whenever this was happening, I think Mikkel sort of twigged. He felt like maybe a vibration in the ground or whatever was going on, and he twigged that there was some traveling going on from the caves. Yeah. So that might also be why it's safer to travel from the caves too, because maybe there is actually quite a big of a shockwave or like sort of a disturbance from the machine itself, because it is creating like a wormhole or black hole or whatever. Wormhole, I suppose. It's not a black hole. Not a black hole, is it? It's not sucking everything in.
They're basically the same thing, aren't they? I don't know. I'm not a scientist.
No, I don't think they're the same thing at all. So basically, Mikkel notices that and he comes to the cave, but he's got a lovely friend waiting for him.
Yeah, just a friendly priest paying him a visit.
Yeah, friendly priest eating an apple with a knife
out in the woods.
Yep.
Yeah, the apple felt like, well, I mean, this is potentially kind of like GCSE level scene analysis here, but the idea of like Noah working for Adam eating an apple, which is the most common depiction of the forbidden fruit from the Garden of Eden, seemed like very explicit imagery to me. But
definitely it's laced in some of that also, but the fact that he's called Noah and he was talking about the ark and all, it's throughout the show.
Yeah, it's but I love Noah's performance here, and I love the implication of what he's doing here as well.
The implication.
Well, so we know what he's doing. We know what his sort of mission is to get the pages back. Mm-hmm. So is he? I mean, it's not really a confirmation of things, but it just got me thinking about what he would be doing there at this time. Is he there to stop Mikkel going back to his correct time, or we know that Claudia and older Claudia are in the caves at some point in this, like in 87 as well. Is he there looking for Claudia? Like there's a lot of possibilities for what Noah's doing, waiting outside the caves here.
Yeah, or maybe he's just like he thought he was in 2020 and he was going to get some drugs out of the drug chair.
Yeah, that's true.
He got the times mixed up. Oh, sorry, I'm a bit early.
No, always happens.
But I think at the same time, actually, Jonas and Hannah have just arrived in those caves in the 80s. Yeah. So maybe he's there to make sure that Mikkel doesn't see Hannah. Because if Mikkel sees Hannah, he's going to recognize that she's from his time. So
yeah, no, it's there's a lot of possibilities as to what he's doing, and it's all kind of propped up by that actor doing some really great line delivery in this scene too.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the way he's kind of I was just going to say the way it like incenses him when Mikkel suggests God has no plan. Yeah. It's like it's as if he suspects that this might actually be the case in regards to Adam, and Mikkel suggesting it has maybe touched a bit of a nerve with Noah, which is great as just kind of lacing the relationship between Noah and Adam with a little bit of tension.
Yeah, exactly, and it's a real believable way for like a stubborn man to act, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so then we get Egon still seems to be on the case. He's because he's found his little notebook, and he goes to see Helga in the care home, and he's already sort of in the phase where he was when he was an old man, because basically the car crash, I think, did this to him, give him sort of brain decline or whatever.
Yeah.
And so there's a few moments in this conversation that I wanted to point out. One is that Helga's saying TikTok at this point already. The second thing, which I'm sure is the main thing you want to talk about, is the mention of a white devil.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and assume the white devil is Noah. Like that's my assumption. I mean, it's not explicit, but that seemed, well, who else could it be?
Like he used to work with Noah. He presumably doesn't anymore.
Yeah, I feel like it must be Noah. The TikTok thing seems to me like what he heard when he woke up from having his head being in, and the portal opened, because I think. Actually, no, it wasn't. That wasn't opened with a. No, wait, it was opened with one of the Tannhaus time machines
From underneath the bunker, yeah.
Yeah, so that's probably what he heard and why he's got that kind of TikTok sound in his head. So yeah, that I think my assumption was he was talking about Noah with the white devil.
But
thing.
that happened when he was a child, though, and he's only just started saying TikTok now, presumably 33 years later.
That is true, but I feel like if you had an accident that affected your brain in this way,
it might bring back the trauma.
Yeah, it might bring back like memories of a traumatic event from the past. So that's kind of what I'm operating on at the moment.
Yeah, cool.
My big takeaway from this was Helga's velvet tracksuit. To be honest, it was horrific.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. He looks like like a particular group of gangsters in a UK crime film.
Yeah, like he's sort of, he'd fit
or like
right in.
GTA 4 character.
Yeah, like he looks like a Russian gangster.
Yeah, he does, yeah. Okay, awesome. So then we get the scene I was talking about where Claudia takes other Claudia into the caves, refills her machine with some cesium, and then travels. And she gives Claudia like a big wad of papers. What did you take from that? What do you think those papers are?
I think that might be the pages from the book that she's handing off to Middle Claudia there. Oh yeah, I'm gonna call her Middle Claudia. Yeah. I think it's really cool to think that the caves are like super busy at the moment. Like if any of these characters dawdled at all, like Noah, Hannah and Mikkel and all the Claudias would have all come across one another, just running around the bloody caves.
Yeah. What are you doing in here?
Yeah. Oh, nothing. Just going for a stroll. Yeah. And then the Claudias have to pretend they don't know each other and they aren't the same person. So I think I still think Claudia stole the pages from Adam and Noah's book, and I think she's just given them to her younger self. And I did like the info dump here of you must stop Adam. This feels like Middle Claudia kind of being roped into the game, because when Claudia and her younger self talked in the power plant, you can see in 80s Claudia's performance that she still really doesn't want to accept the truth about time travel, which is understandable because it's very profoundly upsetting. And in this scene here, she's left with no choice but to become an active member or an active part of the game, so to speak. But I can't wait to see what happens with the apocalypse, because if it's happening in 5 days' time, we haven't got long left.
Yeah, exactly. I will say, I just sort of ask you a question here, sort of get your brain working. So Claudia was talking to the older Claudia was talking to Middle Claudia here about you have to make sure everything happens the way it did. Okay, so it's almost the same as the conversation that Stranger had with Jonas in the bunker at the end of last season, where he was saying everything needs to happen the way it had to happen because I need to be in this position when you get there. Yeah. So is that what you took from this as well, or do you take a different meaning from this?
Yeah, so I think older Claudia, she must know, and I don't know how this makes sense, but she must know that there is going to be some pivotal moment in her timeline or in someone's timeline that I don't want to confuse it by saying timeline, but in her later life that she's yet to see, that she can affect, or that she believes she can affect. And so she has to make sure that middle Claudia does everything exactly the same way that she did it, so that she gets to that point where she's able to make the decision that potentially fixes things. I have no idea how she would know that, because obviously if she fails, everything resets. So it's still a massive question mark on that. But I feel like Claudia, she must have carried over some knowledge from a reset somehow. Maybe there's some area or room or something that exists outside of time, or something bizarre like that. But yeah, I think Claudia is basically, as you say, doing the same thing that the stranger was doing with Jonas, where they're saying, you have to do everything as I've done it because I need to be in a position to fix this when the time comes. Yep,
exactly. Okay, so we'll see how we get on going forward. But next scene, Jonas has got his petrol. He's happy as Larry, and he goes underneath the wall. But he's greeted by 3 guns and Elizabeth, the big mob boss. So obviously he gets caught, and then we'll just skip on to the point where he's hung. So they hang him by his neck. I think Elizabeth really, you can see in the actress's performance that she really doesn't want to kill him. It seems like also from what the future girl says, which was what we're going to call her, scarred future girl, from what she says and talks about later on in the episode, it seems like Elizabeth wouldn't have done that for anyone else.
Yep.
So, what do you think?
Well, I'm trying to think whether we get into this now. All I'm going to say about this for the time being, because we'll come back to this at the end, I think, is that Jonas gets caught, and then the scene ends with a very big close up of Ellie, and then it cuts to a scene of Charlotte freaking out about who her parents really are after seeing something in the stranger's notes, and then it cuts to Jonas. That's all I'm going to say for the time being.
Okay, interesting.
We'll come back to that later.
Okay, so you don't want to say too much here. But obviously, this is where. So, I think you mentioned that the stranger had a scar around his neck, didn't you, last season?
Yeah. So this kind of, to be honest, this kind of put a bullet in my. It was kind of already wavering, but this kind of put a bullet in my theory about people somehow killing themselves and exiting the loop or being reborn in any way, because obviously this is where Jonas gets his scar from.
Okay, interesting. I don't think we'll mark that one falsch just yet. But definitely This is. Well, I don't think we'll mark it false yet. I don't think this is proof. I don't think this is proof of that not being the case. However, it is a bullet in it, so it's up to you.
Yeah, it's not doing well. But the one thing I will say about this scene is I love aside from the kind of bigger theory stuff, we've seen it before, but I love the inclusion of like crucified bodies. It really sort of hammers home that sort of desperate doomsday cult feel of this group. And you know, it's really interesting that Jonas believes that Ellie is lying about knowing what is in the dead zone, which I really hope that's explored, because I still think Ellie knows more than she's letting on.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Right. So then the next scene is Egon is back on the case fully now. He's got all the different newspaper articles and all the different police reports out. He's got the whole file open.
Yep.
He rings up because he wants to ring up and find out about what happened to the man who he arrested. So basically, Ulrich, when he went back into the 50s, he wants to find out what happened to him, and he finds out that he's actually in a mental institution in Winden still.
Yeah, still knocking around.
So he actually goes to the facility. And he gets told that, there he is. He's called the inspector. I love that.
Slightly self-indulgent. I feel like Ulrich insisted upon that.
Yeah. If I can't get back to my son, you're calling me the inspector.
Yeah.
So he goes and he meets Ulrich.
Yeah, this caught me by surprise. I sort of started thinking, I can't really remember what it was that set me off actually, but probably about 15 minutes before it's confirmed that he's doing it, I started thinking, like, I wonder if Egon is going to go and look up Ulrich. And then, lo and behold, here we go. His casting was a bit weird to me. Like, it wasn't... It was... When I saw him on the second time of viewing, it looked better than it did the first time. I don't know what it was about the actor's appearance, but I did not expect Ulrich to look like that. I think it was just the long hair and the really dark skin that kind of threw me a little bit.
You know what's funny about that?
Yeah.
This actor who plays this role, this is the one that most people who I've shown this show to or talked to about it, they've told me that when they first saw him, they assumed it was the same actor with makeup on.
Oh, really? Yeah. It's not, like I say, the second time I watched it, I was like, okay, no, I can see, he has the same jaw, and his face is similar. I think it was just how much darker his skin had gotten and his long hair that kind of threw me. Yeah, he certainly plays the character the same way as the younger actor. He has that sort of glib sense of self-importance, which I don't really understand because he barely understood anything when he went to the 50s, and I doubt he's learned anything since then.
Yeah. So I love the way that he also quotes, my only aim is to take many lives, the more the better I feel.
Yeah, and Egon, he's starting to get, well, in fact, no, it's not even starting to get, like, Egon has been so openly exposed to a lot of the time travel stuff, and it's quite funny comparing him to Charlotte, who's like really starting to put everything together, and Egon is still just like, what? and just doesn't seem to get any of it, which, bless him, he'll get there eventually, but I hope he gets there before he dies, because I'd like to see him at least understand a bit of what's going on. But the chessboard in front of Ulrich, which, by the way, appears to be a game that he is playing with himself, which doesn't work in chess.
He's the inspector.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he is the inspector.
Maybe it's Ulrich versus the inspector. Yeah,
he plays against his alter ego. But yeah, I feel like that might just be a metaphor for Egon and Ulrich's relationship going forward.
Yeah, cool. Also, Ulrich also does mention that he doesn't have much time left until he's dead and buried, because he read it in the newspaper when he was a teenager. Yeah,
so I'm assuming Egon is not going to survive this season. Well, I guess he wouldn't do anyway, because he's in the 80s, so like he would have carried on. But I'm working on the assumption that Egon dying is probably going to happen in this season.
Okay, cool. That might be a theory for The Matrix.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
I'll pop it in.
Probably is. Okay, so then we get the scene, the famous Toast Hawaii scene.
Oh, this looks so good.
Really? Do you think so?
Yeah. Do you not think it looks good?
Just toast with pineapple on.
I mean, I'm a big fan of pineapple pizza.
Is it pineapple? Actually,
pizzas.
This makes a difference. Pineapple. I like pineapple on a pizza too. Don't worry. Probably people are going to shut off this podcast right now. I like pineapple on a pizza.
Oh yeah, me too. I'd like if you're not a fan of Hawaiians, just get out of here. You're not welcome.
Yeah, exactly. But this is a question actually. The toast Hawaii, I didn't notice. This is a big difference for me. Is it just toast and pineapple, or is it toast, ham, and pineapple?
I didn't see any ham, but it must have a spread on it. So I assume it's like butter and a ring of pineapple on. It looked like it was on a bagel or something like that.
Yeah, or a muffin or something.
Yeah, like a muffin. So, I mean, I would definitely have that. A pineapple on its own, I can take or leave, but mix it with something a little bit crunchy, and you've got yourself a comfort food.
That's crazy. I wouldn't eat it if it was just pineapple on toast. I don't think, but I would eat it if it was pineapple, ham, and toast.
What if it had if you put some honey on it?
I'm not a big sweet guy.
All right.
I know, by looking at me, you wouldn't think that, but but no, I'm savory is my thing. Savory, I love savory food. So
okay, so you need some meat on there.
I think I would, yeah. And actually, randomly, I'll just mention this now. We're talking about toast Hawaii. I couldn't have it now anyway because me and my wife are both doing ketogenic diet.
Okay, yeah. Well, you could. You couldn't have any of that, really.
Yeah, I'm making pizza dough out of cheese and almond flour. It's great stuff. We have to do it because she was told that her metabolism is terrible. She had gestational diabetes, and now she's going to get diabetes very early in life if she doesn't change her diet, even though she's never been overweight in her life. But anyway, I'm going to do it as well. See how we get on.
Well, there you go. That's because you're a good husband.
Yeah, no toast Hawaii for me. So you can have toast Hawaii for two.
All right, I would enjoy living at Enos's house and having this as comfort food, which actually that does raise a point, well, not a point, a sort of question I have in my head coming out of this episode, which is that where does Enos live now if it's not in this house, and why did she get kicked out? Because she hasn't died, so it should still be hers. I'm interested to see what happened with that.
I know what you mean. I think it is a general thing that some families do. I think it's not a weird thing for the children to grow up, the parent to move out, and like they keep the family home. Do you know? I think that's not a real. It's not frequently done to the point where everyone does it. But I think it is definitely not weird. I think people do that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's possible that she just sold it to Michael and Hannah, and then moved out. But it just struck me that, you know, obviously she doesn't live in that house anymore, and it's clearly hers in the 80s. So what's gone on there?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, Hannah came on the scene and just demanded the house, probably.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we get. Oh, I think we didn't say there was also a little bit of dialogue in that scene about the fact that Mikkel was asking, "Do you believe in God? Do you think he has a plan?" So there's more sort of a repetition of this same theme.
Yeah, but there's this really interesting kind of double-layered dialogue around God and religion throughout this series, particularly in this episode, but in last season and this one, where you have characters who potentially have some faith in organized religion, and often they're either talking to a character who knows about the sort of overarching plot, or the scene is coming sandwiched in between scenes that show us the overarching plot, and it's an interesting look at the idea of faith in the face of kind of events of such enormity that they make you question whether anyone could maintain their faith through being exposed to them. And you know, it's to the show's credit that they give those kind of themes a place to sit in this, because they don't really have to, but it's nice to have them.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. Okay, so then we're sort of gearing up for the montage of the episode. But before we get there, we have this little moment where the future girl has got the gun pointed at Jonas, who's just in a cage.
Yep, in the caves.
Don't know where these cages come from. Maybe they were doing some testing on animals or something. But anyway, she's pointing a gun at him and is demanding to know who he really is.
It's a good question. Why Ellie didn't kill him, which is also a good question, future girl.
Yeah, okay. Awesome. So that's pointing towards your theory, I'm sure. Then we get the montage, which I thought was a great montage. And it's Charlotte is going into her grandfather's clock shop and picks up a picture, sort of just really confirming like who she is, who's her grandfather. You know, she's worried. And then it also shows Hannah going to the 80s as she sees Mikkel through the window. That reaction is really touching, I think. Just Hannah, you know, seeing Mikkel is really sweet. Yeah, it is. To be honest with you, I've been really impressed with the character of Hannah in the first couple episodes of this series. I think definitely from season 1, if you were just to take all the lies she was doing, you know, she was lying about things to get her own way. She was very conniving. At the same time, there's always been a constant current through her character of just it's a very tragic life as well. Like Egon, she, like, you know, whoever she loves seems to go missing, or, you know, die or kill themselves, or so. It would be a very touching moment that. I like whenever you get these little moments that allude to Hannah and Michael's relationship in some way. Yeah, definitely. I think it's nice to give. We kind of talked about it at the end of last season, I think, that Hannah is a character who's very easy to dislike on the face of things because of the way she's behaved, and it's really nice for her character to get these moments in these past few episodes to show, you know, her humanity and the relationships that she has with the people who are close to her and how much they mean to her. And I think there's a really great use of split screen in this montage. Not the first time they've used it, but I really appreciate every time they do, when they use it to kind of show what people are thinking of, or, you know, where their character is potentially going with the kind of Hannah Mikkel, Egon Ulrich, and then the Stranger and Hannah and the Peter and Charlotte's splits. I'm interested about the Stranger and Hannah and the Peter and Charlotte one, whether that's just sort of a mirror of two people who love one another kind of embracing before
they go off to do other things, or whether there's more to that. But it's as we always say with these kind of montages, it's really, really strong, really great. And again, I love I want you to show me what's in the dead zone as a sort of dramatic punch to lead into the montage. They're really good at doing that.
Yeah, and the future girl and Jonas traveling across the landscape and slowly into where the what are we calling it? The God particle is slowly moving into that area.
Those bloody flying things again. I want to know what those are.
Yeah, just like like the helicopters. I don't know. Jeez,
they're like drones and cocoons in the future, and I feel like they're not going to get into either of them, and I really want them to.
Yeah, but I like the sort of them walking up to the it's sort of sporadically throughout this whole montage of really lovely cinematic scenes of them walking up to the God particle. And then you sort of assume that when we get to the end of this montage, that's what they're going to lead into, but they don't. They go into Claudia in the 80s and digging up holes in her backyard.
Yeah, the editing of this scene is great, like cutting together older Claudia, burying it in the 50s with 80s Claudia uncovering it. It really gives the scene a really snappy feel and builds tension to the reveal of what it is that the 80s Claudia has been left.
And what is it she's been left?
It's a dang time machine is what she's been left.
Yeah, so what do you think she's going to do with that?
She's going to bloody travel through time, I think.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
All right,
yeah,
awesome.
She's. I think she's going to go pop in a little vial of cesium-137 and be off to the... I guess she's probably going to go to the... Well, I mean, it goes in 33-year increments. So where's she going to go first? I'm going to say she's going to go to the 50s first.
Okay.
That's my guess.
Cool. Out of curiosity, so obviously that older Claudia must be before her in time, so we assume the 50s, I suppose. Why didn't she just give middle Claudia the machine rather than going back in time and burying it? What do you think she did that for, and why? So what do you think her plan is?
That's a good question. So rather than just giving it to her in the caves, she left it for her to find.
Like she basically, it almost appeared like she had to be in the 50s because she traveled there first and then buried it, and the tunnels aren't open at the minute, so she's sort of stuck there now. And because of the way it shows like the same date and the same time, you'd assume that older Claudia buried it at that moment. So what? So it appears like she's not going to use it again. So what? I just wanted to know what you think she's doing there.
So I think the implication there has to be that Claudia needed to be in the 50s, or the older Claudia needed to be in the 50s before 80s Claudia got the time machine, and she wouldn't have been able to go back to the 50s if she'd have given her the time machine. So she needed to use it herself first and then give it to her 80s self.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably why. That's another thing that I've been trying to get my head around, actually, is what Stranger Jonas has done has basically shut off the tunnel for everyone in every timeline.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was thinking. I just wasn't sure if it was only in 2020 and beyond.
So I think the way Noah explained it, now whether or not this means the same thing when we get to the end of the series, we never know. But I think whenever he turned off the tunnel, I think he was kind of saying that he did destroy the tunnel. He destroyed the link, but he didn't sort of destroy it being made. Now, whether that moment where he destroyed it is actually it also being made, and it just means that it was linked in the previous times, or whether it would be made somehow else in the future, I'm not sure at this stage. But we definitely know that what he did now, it did end the tunnel. The tunnel cannot be used at this point in time.
Okay, cool. So yeah, that his action sort of starts the link in the tunnel and also closes it going forward, basically.
Yeah, that's what it seems to be at this point. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. I wasn't sure if it was for every timeline or just for 2020 onwards, but that's good to know.
Okay, cool. Right. So then we get the last scene is Jonas turns on the machine, the ball, the God particle. Crazy stuff.
Portal, yeah.
Portal sort of goes down into the sphere, and he only goes and walks into it.
Yeah, he just does not care. Like, it doesn't matter if I die inside or out here. I think is confirmation that Jonas has officially stopped caring about whether he lives or not, and he is full steam ahead on fixing this.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we know he lives at least another 33 years or whatever, so
yeah.
It's not going to kill him going in there, but we'll see what happens. Like, I wouldn't want to be walking into that.
No, you'd have to pay me quite a lot of money to get me to walk into that, to be honest, even in a hazmat suit. But I love that this episode ends the same way we ended the last one, with someone in a hazmat suit staring down the portal in 2052.
Yeah, exactly. That's great. Okay, so that's the end of the episode. Let's go straight into the roundup.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so episode 2, season 2 in the bag. Let us do our IMDb rating to get that out of the way, and then we can talk about all your theories, because I want to get it to them as quick as possible.
Yep.
So, IMDb rating for this one was 9.1.
Is that higher than the last one?
Yeah, the last one was 8.9.
Yeah, I mean, this is still a good episode. Obviously, all the episodes of Dark are good. I don't think it's anywhere near as strong as the first one, though. I'd probably put it in the mid-8s, probably. Somewhere around that.
Yeah, which is still a huge score, let's be honest.
Yeah, no, I mean, to be clear, when I say an episode is, like, worse than another episode, I'm saying that from the perspective of someone who thought, episode 1 of season 2 was, one of the best episodes of television I've seen in, I don't even know how long, like 20 years probably. So,
yeah.
Like, it's not a bad thing to be worse than that. It just is, it's just a very good episode as opposed to an amazing episode.
Yeah. It's interesting the way that we've all talked about it before to know, like we've talked about it forever, but it's interesting the way that the rating works on this, because I just happen to think that everyone is rating this after they've seen the whole series, and they're going back and reading what happened in each episode and rating it based on the little blurb.
Yeah, I mean, they might not even be doing that. They might just be trying to remember it and getting things wrong as to what happens where. I wouldn't. I never trust anyone rating anything anyway. I say exactly. As someone who rates stuff on Letterboxd, but
yeah. Trust us. We
know we're the professionals.
We'll not steer you wrong.
But I mean, having said, it's not as good as the first one. I think the Charlotte Clausen storyline is really hotting up. I'm interested to see where that goes. The Egon Ulrich one is interesting as well. And as I say, Egon was probably the star of this episode for me. His performance was really heartbreaking and touching. And Hannah got some good stuff too. And it's always great to follow Jonas's odyssey through the timelines as he tries to get back home.
Yeah, exactly. That's great. Awesome. So let's then, unless you have anything more to say about this episode in general, like we've done an hour and 15 on it already, but if there's anything else you want to say, we can now get into your theories.
All right. Okay. So I've got a few. I'll start with the small one. So this isn't really based on anything apart from Stranger Jonas throwing a little glimpse at something on the floor in the first episode, but the fact that they're now he's now in the 80s with Hannah makes me think that young Jonas is going to put something under the floorboards of the kitchen, which is what Stranger Jonas was looking at, and we'll get into that in a minute.
Okay.
But so that following on from that, I think Jonas, so he's gone through the portal, and I think this is going to be one of those portals like the one that he went through in 1986, where he sort of randomly went forward to 2052 rather than, going in the 33-year leaps that the time machines take you in. So I think he's going to go back to either the 20s or the 50s on the other side of that portal. I'm probably going to say the 50s. And I think he's going to become stuck there because obviously the portal is shut. Or the tunnel portal is shut, and he will only return to 2020 after the apocalypse has happened. So I think episode 8 is going to be Jonas getting back to 2020, but too late to stop anything. I think the apocalypse will happen, and he'll be the eyes through which we see the aftermath.
Interesting.
And then, okay, so this is a big one. And it's based on this is theories upon theories here. So this could all come tumbling down like an awful house of cards.
This is based on a theory that you've already made. So if the other
that hasn't been proven
correct,
right.
Okay, fair enough.
So long-time listeners will know that in season 1, on the basis of one scene, I predicted that Ellie was Charlotte's mum. And this episode made me more firm in my belief of that, because the cut from Ellie's face to Charlotte freaking about who her parents are, then to Jonas, makes me think that there's something in that. So I think that Jonas is going to get back to 2020 after the apocalypse has happened, and he's then going to bond with Ellie in the sort of post-apocalyptic landscape, because we know that she survives it.
Okay.
And the two will eventually have children together before he leaves that timeline again, because this explains why older Ellie knows who he is and spared him. As well as the cryptic line about, the rules not applying to him and stuff like that. So Ellie clearly knows who he is.
Well, she would know who he is anyway, because she grew up with the same town as him, and her sister was friends with him.
Yeah, but the whole the rules not applying to him thing, that feels like she's had an established relationship with him in the post-apocalypse. Okay. Where, again, this is theories on theories, so this could be completely wrong, but I'm doubling down on this. So, and I think what's going to happen is Ellie's going to have twins, one of which is the girl with the scar on her face, the brown-haired girl, and one of which Jonas will take back with him to probably, I guess it would have to be the 80s, but who will become Charlotte.
So you're predicting that when she's saying, "Who are you?" he's actually her father.
Yeah, so... And I'll go further on this as well. So it was really, obviously, the cuts between Jonas, Ellie, and Charlotte made me think, maybe Jonas and Ellie are Charlotte's parents. But then the inclusion of the Nielsen family photograph, so clearly with the time machine, makes me think, what if everyone who is sort of really centrally involved with the time travel plot is a Nielsen? So we know that, Mikkel is obviously a Nielsen, and Jonas is his son, so he's a Nielsen. And then if he then has a child with Ellie, that means Charlotte is also a Nielsen, and that then means that Ellie is also a Nielsen because she's her own grandmother. So
very interesting.
So yeah, the Ellie being her own grandmother thing is the bit that's kind of tripping me up here, because that feels like it shouldn't work. But yeah, so that's what I got to at the end of this episode. It was a deep old dive on the theory matrix to figure that one out.
So what about Bartosz? Because he's sort of getting involved in the time travel with Noah now. So is he going to be a Nielsen?
No, I think on the Adam. Yeah, it's a good point actually. Yeah, I don't think he will be. So maybe it won't be everyone is a Nielsen. But I feel like the Nielsen sort of extended bloodline is going to. It can't just be coincidence, or like the show saying, "Oh, Mikkel, he's kind of important," for the reason that they show that picture. I feel like there has to be more to it than that. So
your theory that Noah is Agnes's husband, right? Wouldn't that imply that Noah is Tronta's dad? So wouldn't that imply that Noah's last name is Nielsen?
Wait, hold on. So it's Agnes Nielsen. Yeah, okay. So she goes back and becomes Agnes Nielsen, which implies that.
Oh, you're talking about Marta going back and becoming Agnes Nielsen, are you?
Well, no. That's an entirely separate kettle of fish at the moment. Like Marta becoming.
But you just said she goes back and becomes Agnes Nielsen. Who goes back?
I mean, at the moment, the assumption is that it's Marta.
Yeah.
But even if it's not Marta, like Agnes's surname is Nielsen, right? Because she's Ulrich's.
But is that but would that? Do you think that that's a maiden name, or do you think that so if Noah is the husband of Agnes, would Noah be Noah Nielsen?
Yeah, because I'm just trying to think. Does Marta? Sorry, that's a Freudian slip. Does Agnes say that she was married to the man of God? I think she does, doesn't she?
Yeah, I don't know if it was actually married. I'm not sure. I don't know if they were married.
I
think someone referencing your husband or something. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Even to be honest with you, I don't know, even if she said husband, I don't know if we could take her at the word of husband. Like she might just be saying that to spare her blushes.
Yeah, I suppose like
you don't want to have a child out of wedlock,
I think that would be really cool though. If it turned out that obviously she's Agnes Nielsen, if it turned out that was a married name and it was Noah's surname as well, so Noah is also a Nielsen, which means pretty much everyone who is involved in this, with the exception of Bartos, which makes sense because Bartos is a perennial outsider that no one actually cares about. Is part of the Nielsen family. So yeah, that could potentially. I hadn't even thought about Agnes, to be honest. But
Except for Bartos and Claudia, but Claudia is Bartos's grandmother, so that's the same family too.
Yeah. Claudia's kind of the outsider in that as well. But I kind of get the sense from her that she is sort of an outsider. She's kind of operating on her own and doing things her own way, which would work thematically. But yeah, so basically everyone's a Nielsen is my takeaway from this episode.
Yeah, awesome. And also, just to bear in mind as well, Noah, it was mentioned in the first scene of this series when the fella who you think is Bartos, the older fella, said to young Noah, ask Adam why he took you in, and ask him why he called you Noah. Why you get, so Noah isn't his real name.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't even thought about that, actually.
Yeah, so stew on that. Maybe I should have said that, but stew on that.
No, I did make a note that he said that, but I hadn't really thought about it in the context of everything. I suppose it's, implies that he's ferrying people from one place to another place.
Yeah, which we've seen him doing, and we've also
unsuccessfully.
Unsuccessfully, yeah. But he also has been doing. What was I going to say? He also sort of said himself in this big monologue. This is my arc and stuff. So it does fit. Yeah. Or there also is always the question in this show. Did Adam call him Noah because he knew that he needed to be called Noah?
Yeah, there's always that sort of logical safety net of it's just the way it's always been, so that's the way it's going to continue to be.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that's the roundup. Great episode. I've got a surprise for you, Konrad.
Oh, okay, hit me.
What the dub is back.
Oh, don't call it a comeback. It's been here for years.
Yeah, it was only gone for 1 week. It's back.
It was a retirement that Mick Foley would have been proud of.
Yeah. Now, I will say that there was another segment put up suggested in the comments, which sounded unbelievable. I can't remember quite who suggested it, but it is something that we will be doing eventually. And we will. It was the idea that whenever a reveal or something is done, for example, like the Stranger reveal. The Michael reveal. I mean, it would be. There's a cool segment idea that I got from the comments where we would actually go and sort of have a look at the implications of the family tree. So you can imagine how funny it would be for 2 or 3 minutes just to go through. Well, if Michael's that means that Mikkel's grandfather, and go through everything like that. Like Jonas's grandmother is Katarina and stuff. Like we could go through stuff like that. So. That's an idea for a segment too. So whenever we get a reveal which leads to that sort of discussion, we could do an actual segment about it. I like that idea.
Yeah, no, that sounds really good.
Yeah, awesome. So we'll get to what the dub now.
Cool. All right, hit me with it.
What the dub?
Okay, so we'll try and be very quick because it isn't that great of a one, but it was good enough. It was good enough to mention. Okay?
You can't undersell it now. This is the glorious comeback.
It's a glorious comeback, right? and it focuses around them changing the script again.
Nice.
And I think this one is changed because they assume people who speak English as a first language are fools.
Okay,
right?
Well, I mean, they'd be right to do that, but sure, carry on.
Okay, so it all centers around the question: why not the Forest Road?
Okay.
You know what that question is in the English version?
Go on.
Why not through the forest?
Okay. Why is that necessary? I don't understand. It's changing the sentence for no gain.
Yeah, I know. It's just like, you know what? We want to have them picturing driving in amongst the trees, no road.
But why not Forest Road? Isn't like how you would say that in German either. It's written in shorthand by a police officer in his diary. That's why it sounds like a note, because it is a note rather than a carefully constructed sentence.
Yeah, and it actually makes me think. I don't remember realizing this in the first season. So I think they were actually saying Forest Road in the English dub in the first season. I didn't notice them saying through the forest. I think they've changed this for the second season.
They've got like maybe a new person at the helm who's got fancy ideas about what they're going to do with the script to zhuzh it up a little bit.
Yeah. They got to put their little marker on it in some way,
Unbelievable.
Yeah, exactly.
All
right.
Welcome back.
welcome back, What the Dub. So we'll see if there's a What the Dub for next week. If there's not, we might do an initial sort of looking at the family tree. I was thinking of I'll think of the exact name of it, but I was thinking of calling it something like Anthony James and Konrad's Expedition into the Crazy Family Tree That Is Dark. I think
that rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, I'm gonna call it something like that. Something nice and snappy, But that's this week's episode. Thank you very much for listening. We make sure you subscribe on podcasting apps. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. We've hit 2,000 subscribers now in the YouTube channel. So thank you very much to everyone who subscribed. It's absolutely mind-blowing. Woo! I'm pretty sure this podcast has a lot to do with the growth. So thanks, Konrad, for agreeing to do it. I sent him a message on Facebook Messenger back in late June or early July, I suppose. I can't remember exactly when it was. And I said, hey, do you want to start a podcast? There's a show called Dark. I told you to watch it last summer. You didn't watch it. Do you want to watch it now and we'll talk about it? And literally, we recorded the first episode like 3 days later. So thanks very much, Konrad.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me to be on it. It's thank you to everyone for listening as well.
Yeah, crazy. And there's been a few people who have been donating some money to us. Again, if you need the money, do not donate it. If you want to give it to a charity, much better you do that. Except if you want to see a better quality product from us, every bit of money you give us is going to go towards the show in some way. Wow, we're going to upgrade everything we've got. So if that's great, there's a link in the description. No pressure. It's down there. Click it. But thank you very much. We're going to go now, and we'll see you on Saturday for the Q&A.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if we've got anything to close off with. Not really.
I didn't that wasn't a really good run in to letting you go there.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna just come into this cold.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
All right. Okay. So let's do the most professional sign off in the game. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the After Dark podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode.